Welcome to this edition of Aligned. Today we have our guest is Dave Greider. He is a dear friend and he's just an awesome guy all around. He has worked in editing for films and TV. He has owned his own production company. He'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then, like I said, he's just an amazing individual. So without pause, I'd like to welcome Dave to the call. Dave, how's it going?
Good, dude. Haven't seen you in a minute.
Man, it's been such a long time since I've seen you. It's a great feeling. So I want to thank you for taking time today to sit down and answer a few questions and, let some of my viewers kind of know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, I'm looking good.
So yeah, we'll just start off with the first question, which is, what's your current occupation?
Yeah, my current occupation, I'm currently a reality television producer. I think to give some context to it, I came up as an editor. And then I quickly, after about 4 years of developing shows as an editor, I got enlisted as an executive for original production. So I worked as a VP of current series there for 2 years. And then after that, we ran all kinds of shows from like Ink Masters to Swamp People and a ton of other shows. And then they shut down the West Coast office. Endemol bought Original, and they decided to shut down the West Coast office and consolidate everything to the East Coast. And since I had no desire to leave LA, my partner, my colleague at the time who ran development, I ran production, decided to start our own company. So then we launched our own shingle and did that for 5 years. Produced I think about 40 hours of original content for Netflix and Discovery Channel and travel. Who else? Animal Planet, History. So yeah, it was quite a ride. And then I shut that down in 2019, and I've been freelancing since then. So yeah.
Wow. And what types of shows are you freelancing for right now?
All kinds of stuff. It's been fun. I'll just go over a few of them. I did the reboot of America's Most Wanted for Fox. That was a lot of fun. It was a crazy schedule. We had 16 editors, and I was the lead and finisher on that. So I was at Fox. We would shoot the show on Mondays, and it would air on Thursdays. So there were several times I worked like 90 to 100 hours in that.
Oh my gosh.
So what that looks like, by the way, is I would get there at 8 a.m. I'd work till 1 a.m. I'd go home, I'd sleep for 3 hours and shower, and I'd be back. And I would do that 3 days in a row. Yeah, it was rough. It was, and I did that for 6 weeks. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And it was just the nature of the beast of like creating something new and issues we had and the expectations of the network. Anyway, so I did that. That was crazy. I did this show for TBS called Backyard Bar Wars, which is the opposite. It's just a fun build show where we're building bars in people's backyards. And it was hosted by and it was one of the most fun shows I've ever worked on. I just finished a true crime series for Netflix that's coming out soon. And I'm about to do a show for CNN. It's the 50th anniversary of Watergate. So I'm doing a 4-part doc series on Nixon for CNN. So that starts next week. So yeah,
pretty
just
sweet, man.
Keeping busy, So yeah.
I'm still trying to get over the 90, 100 hours a week.
Yeah. It was funny, dude. I don't know, to go back to that, like it was unbelievably exhausting. Like I would eat. People would bring me food. We had this. The reason is there was all these pods being built by all of these editors, and they all get fed into the master system where it was me and the executives and the showrunners. And so we would just be working as quickly as possible because things would happen where a fugitive would get caught before our air. And so we would have to rip that part out of the show, put in the backup, and then like weave it all back together. And so all that's happening so fast, or we'd catch a fugitive from the previous week and have to write that into the show. And so, yeah, you're just as fast as my fingers could go, and responding to all that stuff. So yeah, people are just bringing you food and coffee and Red Bull, and you just keep moving. So yeah, it was
That
crazy.
is not healthy.
Yeah, it's only something you can do for a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great experience. I met a lot of great, very talented people. So it's a shame Fox didn't renew the show. We just didn't quite hit the high water mark of what they were expecting ratings wise. So, but it was fun.
Awesome. I guess that leads me to the next question, which is if there was something you could do paid or unpaid, what would it be? And I kind of have an understanding of
Yeah,
your
that,
motives or motivation. What
yeah. It's
motivates you?
funny. It's funny. Do you think that in the context of like my vocation or like anything?
I guess anything. I don't want to limit you.
Oh
Just
man, dude,
give
I'm a
me
huge
anything.
snow skier. I would just be a ski bum. I'd be a ski guide.
Really?
Like I would live in Switzerland and like Zermatt,
Yeah.
particularly. I did a show for Netflix called The Horn, and the Matterhorn is what it's called. And if you ever
Okay.
get a chance, it's an amazing show. It's about the heli rescue team in
Okay.
Zermatt, Switzerland, and flew there, spent time with those guys, and it is one of the most beautiful places on the planet and incredible people. I would be a ski guide in Switzerland for sure.
I think I could see that.
Yeah, right. I gotta work on my Swiss German. But
Yeah.
as soon as I got that down, it'd be smooth sailing. So
So, when you were a kid, did you envision yourself doing what you're doing currently, or were you going to be like a ski guide?
yeah, it's funny. It's funny. No, I was always like I thought I was wanting to be an architect for a long time, and
I
so
keep
like
hearing
yeah,
that.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's funny. So no, I literally did, and my dad like connected with architects in our in the city I grew up in West Virginia, and like I would shadow them and spend time with them. And at some point, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then when I was 13, I like stumbled upon this article that was about nonlinear video editing, and it was like the revolution of
Oh,
video and all that stuff. And I illegally pirated Vegas Video, like the Sony nonlinear editor, and because I couldn't afford the software and they didn't have education discounts back then. And then I convinced my dad to give me $500 to buy a used video camera off of eBay, and that was like a first generation mini DV camera. And then I started shooting stuff with my friends and editing it, and I just loved it. I'd spend all my time like shooting and editing stuff. And I was like, and then at some point, I think I figured out that I could do that for a living, or maybe do that for a living. And so yeah, that was it. So from the age of 13, I was pretty dead set on doing what I'm doing now,
oh,
which is pretty, I guess, rare, But yeah, I don't know. I loved it as a kid, and the moment I figured out that you could do it as an adult, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this.
I gotta ask. I mean, did I know that you said that you were introduced into it that way, but did your parents have any type of influence, or was there anybody in your family? I guess let me just back up. What did your parents do as a
Yeah,
living?
my dad is a pastor. He was a pastor for 30 years, and now he's a drug and alcohol counselor, a licensed drug and alcohol counselor for generally like residential rehab. And then my mom, she's a stay-at-home mom, ran a business most of my life. Now, funny enough, she transitioned to like construction management, and now I have a side business where I buy and renovate houses in West Virginia, and she works for me full time in that venture.
Oh wow.
But yeah, no, they were like, it's funny. They were incredibly supportive. They were like, we're just happy that you're passionate, and then they, were happy to support me through that. And which is funny because everyone else in my life was like, you were making a terrible decision, because I was like, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, why are you wasting, your intellect or your potential by trying to pursue this thing that is probably not going to happen,
Oh,
which is like working in entertainment and making it as a professional. Which, I get their concern. There's not a lot of, television editors or television producers. It seems like there's a lot in LA, but when you live in West Virginia, it seems like
well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what drew you? I guess the career drew you out to Los Angeles, but had you even visited before? I mean, how did
no,
you
I
make
hadn't. No, so
that jump?
I am from West Virginia, a town of like 50,000 people. I went to a small private liberal arts school in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'd never been to LA. And I think I'd saved up like $2,000, and I drove my 1998 Mercury Pacer 3,000 miles with no cruise control. I convinced my brother to come with me, and we drove from West Virginia all the way to LA. Never been to LA before. Found a guy on Craigslist to rent a room from. And like I said, I had like $2,000. And I was renting. I remember I was renting. I mean, I'm no joke. It is the size of like my walk-in closet today, and I don't have that big of a closet. And I was renting it for $720 a month in Culver City. And I knew I had enough money for like 2.5 months. And I literally, I didn't know anyone in LA. Like I knew like 1 or 2 people. I was like knocking on doors, literally knocking on doors, trying to get my resume out there. And I was about to run out of money. And I met a guy at a party that was like my roommate's party. And he was like, I work for the TV Guide Network, and we're always looking for digitizers. And I was like, oh, cool. Here's my info. And I got a call, and I got a job making $16 an hour as a part-time nighttime digitizer at the TV Guide Network.
Part-time.
And I thought I was a king. For the first time in 2 months, I went and bought chicken because I'd been eating rice and beans.
Oh my God.
Like, oh, I can buy protein now. Yeah, that's how it all started. So yeah.
About how old were you at that time?
I was 21. Yeah. So I was a kid. Yeah.
You didn't have anybody to support, and you could probably live off of Taco Bell if you needed to. Yeah.
I was literally eating red beans and rice, at the same time, it was a really fun time in my life. I knew if I ran out of money, I would sell my car and use that money to buy a plane ticket, fly back home. And
how were you going to get around LA without a car?
Well, no, my point is,
has a car.
No. My point is, if I failed in LA,
I know.
Yeah. So I know it's a crazy, it's crazy, but yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Man. So I see that you had determination, and I mean that's what my friends are. I mean they are just determined. That's why you are where you are. But what would you say your greatest strengths and your greatest strengths, and then just some of your weaknesses would be, if you had to summarize?
Yeah. I think that I am a hardcore maximizer. Like I want to maximize every situation I'm in. Like when I was at the TV Guide Network, this is back when it was like the rotating bar, right? Like, you guys remember the bar that like rotated through the channels. Anyway, there were editors there that would like edit special content for that. And so I would become friends with the editors, and I would be like, hey, can I like cut packages for you? And like, oh, we're not really supposed to do that. I'm like, it's cool. I'll do it at night. You can review it. And they let me cut those packages at night. And then like a producer found out I was doing that, and a producer was like, well, can you cut these packages on the side? And I did. So I started cutting those packages. And then that producer like gave me another job and another job and another job. And it just started rolling upwards. And I think that one of my strengths was just always looking at a situation and being like, how can I maximize this? How can I learn as much as I can from the people in this room? And that in my career has just created opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to be an executive. I was a vice president of current series for Endemol at 28 years old. Wow. That was crazy. I would have never guessed that I'd be an executive or run a company. It's like we grossed $10 million a year at the age of 30. Like it was a lot of revenue. Now most of that goes out in expenses. I didn't make that much money. Right. But to just be the CEO of a company that has 80 employees and do that at the age of 30 was pretty insane. But the reason I had those opportunities was it was like, I'm going to learn as much as I can from this thing, and never be the smartest person in the room. Always surround myself with people that were better than me. So I think that is a big strength. I think the dark side of that is there is a lack of contentment, because you're never happy where you are, because there's always something more.
Right.
And that can take you to a pretty dark place if you're not careful. Because then it's like, well, when is it enough? Like at what point do you slow down and just appreciate what it is that you've done? And frankly, like that's something I'm trying to figure out right now in my own life of, that's why I'm not running a company anymore or working as a head of production at a network, because I just kind of wanted to slow down and appreciate some aspects of my life. So, but it definitely doesn't come.
Kids can be a great influence on that, but even some with kids, they kind of set that aside with their ambitions of grandeur.
Yeah, totally. I
Oh,
mean, man, when I was running the company, I felt like I was never seeing my kids, you know?
man.
And so yeah, you're right. Kids can be a huge catalyst for that. For some people, for me at least, it really helped me, kind of, I realized there's a short window of time where these kids want to spend time with you, and I want to be present for that window of time. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So if you could give any advice to anybody who's gonna or who's attempting to pursue this career path, what would that be?
Yeah, it's funny. For especially being running my company, you're hiring people all the time. So like the one of the hardest things was staffing shows. So from the very top, like picking the showrunner, which was always the hardest thing. Which I fired a ton of showrunners during my time, down to like an AP. And when we found someone, whether it was like an assistant editor, a production assistant, like doesn't matter what the level, if there was someone who worked really hard, had a great attitude, and like owned their job, I about tripped over myself to give that person a promotion or like figure out what they wanted to do with their life. Because it is shockingly rare to find people like that. Like surprisingly. Um, you know, yeah. So it's like if you want to do this, it's like get your foot in the door, no matter like what tier you want to be in. A lot of people give reality TV a hard time, but it makes up a very large market share of entertainment. And because of that, because of the development cycle, there's way more opportunities there than in the scripted world, but it doesn't matter. Whatever tier you want to be in, the metrics are the same. And that is the people who are looking to hire are looking for someone who is going to work hard, who's going to be professional, and who's going to own their job and look for opportunities to think about what their boss needs before they need it. And it's like when you have a lens to see that, like, oh, if you're the AP and your boss is the supervising producer, and the supervising producer is always stressed out about this thing, how can you go and make that person's life better by handling that thing? When I find someone who thinks that way, it is like, how can I fast track you and promote you as fast as possible and just teach you, you know? So yeah, it sounds obvious, but I cannot communicate enough how rare it is to find. There's a lot of lazy, entitled people that think that they're already capable of being the DP, right? An AC who's like, it's below me to move those boxes. Or I should be shooting this. I shouldn't be changing your lenses and doing DIT. And it's like, when I see that, it's the opposite reaction. I'm like, oh man, get the hell off my set. Because if you're too good to do that, like I own the company and I'm going to go move those boxes,
Yeah.
So that's kind of the both sides of it. I think if you have that kind of attitude, then it's only a matter of time before you're going to be at the top of your game.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that one, because I see that so often in the field of architecture, where you have so many who come in and they're just like, I should be, lead design, or I should be running the project. And I'm just like, well, not because of how I came up in this profession, where it's like, I put in a lot of hard work, and you had those who were, way older, basically dictating everything. And basically you had to wait, because of there was like a true pecking order, and, just, it was a gray hair person's profession.
Yeah.
But things have changed drastically, as you may know, with, technology, so that there's a lot of things, there are a lot of information that's readily accessible for people who are starting in these careers, that they can learn much more at a rapid pace. But still, there is nothing that will nothing that you can, I guess, replace in terms of the attitude first and foremost, but just I'm trying to get my thought out clearly, but getting the experience is the most important thing. So
Yeah.
in any career, I believe it's just so important to humble yourself and have a learner's heart,
Yeah.
and a teachable heart, and be able to go through whatever it takes to gain that experience, and to, not feel as if you need stuff today, because, and I'm not saying like, I know everything, but, in the 20 plus years that I've been working in my profession, what I've learned most importantly is that, there really isn't so much of an end goal, as much as there is this consistent learning throughout my career, which will continue even when I feel like I've reached the top, in some way. That there was just something just beautiful about learning,
Yeah.
and if you can get into that mindset of I just need to learn and not just necessarily accomplish, that
Yeah.
your life, I think, is just going to be more full.
Yeah.
Um, because like you said, I mean, what is it that you're trying to reach in those positions, like where you're the CEO? You're basically just trying to, maximize profit, grow your business. Some people grow too fast. You're just trying to like do all these, these great things, but it never ends. It never ceases. But if you were to say, okay, well, let's be practical about this and say, well, what will help encourage a healthy environment for everybody? We can be profitable. We can do all these things, but let's just create a nice life work balance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really, I think, when I'm like 70, 80 years old, I don't want to think about like, what titles I had and, what projects I necessarily built. I just want to think about the full life I had, that
Yeah.
I got to see my child walk and talk and go to games, or I got to celebrate a friend's birthday. And I wasn't like, staying up till like 3 in the morning trying to get a project out that, was successful and it served its purpose. But in 50 years, it really has no place,
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Yeah. It's like relationships are where it all comes down to, So like the quality of our relationships, I think, dictates the quality of our lives. So it's like, is the thing that is how you're living and what you're working towards going to create the circumstances for you to have quality relationships? I think that's a huge metric of the success of your life. But it's funny enough, as true as that is, and everybody who hears that, they're like, oh, that's super true. But it's like when you're being judged, like when you're at a party, somebody can't ascertain what your quality of relationships are. You know what I mean? What they ascertain is like, what's your job title? What do you do? You know, when you say I'm the CEO of a production company, everybody's like, oh, or whatever the title is, versus like, I'm an editor, there's a huge gap, right, in that response. But it's like, man, the season of life I'm in right now, the quality of my relationships are way better. Now I'm not saying that two things are exclusive. I'm just saying the very nature of it. It's not like it's not an easily understandable thing in a social setting, in a hierarchy. So that's why I think people misplace a lot of value in things that don't contribute to those kinds of quality aspects of your life. So yeah, I get that totally. I think that if anything, man, make sure that you're not overlooking, making sure that you cultivate great relationships in your life, for sure.
That's great, man. And as we mentioned before we even had this or started this interview, when we had our conversation a few weeks ago, I wanted to have you on this segment because it's really important. And as much as I stress, there's certain approaches to careers, like there's an attitude and there's an understanding that, people who've actually gone through this or a perspective that they can offer. And I think that your perspective is a great one. I think, and I'm going to not quote you, but I'm going to kind of, paraphrase what you had said, is that you had to find or strike that balance, and you found that your life was kind of out of balance, and you felt almost as if, one may perceive, your choice as not necessarily an accomplishment. But, I have to say that it was a great accomplishment. Once again, I have to say this, for you to sit down, reflect on where you were at that time, and you balanced out your life. You took the hard road, which was to say, I can continue to have these successes that the world may see as a great success, but ultimately for you, your heart, you found peace in the decision that you made. So I'm just like, man, I want to praise you all day for all that you've done and what you continue to do, because, whether you're the top of a company or you're at the top of a mountain skiing, I think that your heart is in the right place, and your attitude towards people and those relationships is truly something that should be praised.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really do. It's hard, it's hard to, there's this expectation that we should like have it all, like you should be able to like do the thing and build the company and have a great marriage and great kids and great hobbies. And, like,
Yeah.
I haven't met anyone who can do it all. And I appreciate that because it was a very cognizant decision to kind of step back from the career and prioritize my family. Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm in it, man, and I have no regrets. So I appreciate that a lot.
Well, cool. Well, as I promised, we had our questions, and you've answered them all. We're at the point where the bonus question is going to be
Exciting.
asked.
All right.
And today we have someone who's going to ask this question, not me.
Okay.
And this is Philip from Texas, and I'm going to let him into the call right now.
Okay. All right, cool.
So Philip, can you please go ahead and give us that bonus question?
Bonus question is, if someone is trying to get into film editing or editing a video, what would you suggest? Any pointers?
Yeah, I mean, editing is the kind of thing that, like a lot of things, it just takes a tremendous amount of hours to like become a master of. So it's, for me, I started cutting anything I could get my hands on. And the great thing about today, when I started 25 years ago, was it 25? Yeah, 22 years ago. Technology was actually not easy to get a hold of. Today, it's unbelievable. The tools are so prolific. What you can do in iMovie, which is free, is mind-blowing, and just an iPhone. So because of that, there's just almost no excuse to create and to experiment and do stuff. So I would just say, man, take as many opportunities as you can to cut things. And if you're particularly interested in narrative, then it's like, how can, it seems like a daunting thing. It is a daunting thing to cut a 90-minute or 120-minute movie. But it's like all things, break it down into small pieces and be like, man, what is if it's narrative you want to get into, how can you cut together like a 1 minute long short film shot on an iPhone, and like, how can you start small and like refine your skills there? And then, refine your technical skills too. Like start with iMovie, then go to Final Cut Pro, and then go to Adobe Premiere, and then maybe move up to Avid, like if you want to experiment with the software and keep it going. But yeah, I'd say start small and just, man, do a lot, like keep going.
That's good. I appreciate you letting us know the tools too that you prefer. So that's good. Yeah, appreciate that information, that advice.
Yeah, yeah. Not to go too deep on the tool side, but yeah, every tool has its purpose and scales differently. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, moving stuff together, and how you do it and how you go about it might change, but the art itself doesn't change a whole lot. Yeah.
Thank you, Philip, for that question. Please come back or visit the YouTube station, and you can hear the whole interview. But I'm going to go ahead and conclude here. Dave, I want to thank you once again for your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for entertaining all the questions. And man, I'll just continue to pray for your family and yourself and all endeavors, and whether you're skiing or editing or just in construction work. So
awesome, man. Chris, always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Same to you, yours as well.
So if you need it, if you need anything, just please don't hesitate to call. I'll help you in whatever way I can.
Sounds good, dude. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Catch you guys later. Bye.
All right. Bye.